welcome back to Let's Talk Physical Media. I am your host, John, and this is the weekly show where you guessed it, we talk about all the news in the world of physical media, and this is actually one of the busier news weeks we've ever had in the world of physical media, so I'm going to waste no time on top, and we're just going to dive right in. We're going to start it off with Criterion's October announcements, and clearly they're really feeling spooky season for October, and they knocked it out of the park with these releases. There's at least 3 in here I have to pre-order, even though the Barnes & Noble's 50% off sale is the next month in November. Some of these I can't wait, especially since I want to watch some of them in October around spooky season, and their releases are Altered States on 4K Blu-ray. This is a movie I've actually never seen. This is stars William Hurt, and I remember a couple years ago after he passed away, I was like, I really gotta watch Altered States, and I remember looking it up, and I still didn't watch it, so there is no excuse now. This is actually one of the 2 movies in here I already pre-ordered, because I just have to have them on day one. And the other one, I haven't pre-ordered yet. The other big one that was already kind of announced, we kind of knew it was coming, is A History of Violence, directed by David Cronenberg. So this is pretty awesome. This is one of his more popular films from the 2000s. Really kind of turns down the usual David Cronenberg style, but I still think that this is one of his masterpieces, and definitely one, if you've never seen it, you should definitely check out. And David Cronenberg also has The Shrouds coming to Blu-ray, not 4K Blu-ray. I believe that's the only film coming out in October from the Criterion Collection that is not on 4K. A little strange, actually, seeing as how they're giving us another David Cronenberg film on 4K, but I guess it comes down to popularity on that. Also, Deep Crimson and Eyes Without a Face are both going to be coming to 4K Blu-ray. Those are actually 2 films that I haven't seen yet. Now, another film that I have seen, and I have the Blu-ray for, is Twin Peaks Fire Walk With Me. This is the film that came out in between. Like, it came out just after the show had already completed, and it came out before the Showtime series years later. This one's a much darker tale compared to the David Lynch and Mark Frost Twin Peaks show. That's because this comes straight from David Lynch's vision, and when you watch the movie, it's pretty damn clear, because other than in the, I would say, first 15 minutes, there is no comedy, and it's one of the most dark films you'll ever see, but it's right up David Lynch's alley, and I think it's a great film if you haven't seen it. But if you're somebody who hasn't seen the film and you've only watched Twin Peaks, yeah, Fire Walk With Me might be a little bit of a surprise, but I still think it's a great film, and that's getting a 4K Blu-ray upgrade. That one I'll probably wait a little while, just because I already have the Blu-ray release, and I don't really run back to Fire Walk With Me as much as I run back to the show. Only if I'm watching the show will I throw Fire Walk With Me on, so I'm going to wait a little while, but eventually I will upgrade that to 4K Blu-ray. And then the thing that stood out to me most is Nightmare Alley coming to 4K Blu-ray. Guillermo del Toro has one of the best working relationships with the Criterion Collection. This is no surprise. It's something that's been rumored for a while as well. And I actually happen to have the previous release of Nightmare Alley on 4K Blu-ray. I reviewed this and The Shape of Water, both of their standard 4K Blu-rays here on the channel. The Shape of Water has already received an upgrade through the Criterion Collection. A video I've actually been meaning to make is to compare those two, so eventually I will do that, but it makes you think sometimes, because if Guillermo del Toro's films, and then of course, we got the Venetian Scene coming to 4K Blu-ray on July 29th, and we all know that's going to end up in the Criterion Collection eventually. Do you buy the initial releases for some of these films, for some of these directors that have great working relationships with the Criterion Collection? Because it almost kind of burns the consumer when you buy it, like, on day one. Like, I have to get the Venetian Scheme on 4K July 29th, so I'm like, all right, I'm going to grab it, but I just know, like, in a year and a half, there's going to be a much better version on 4K Blu-ray with a lot of extras. Because the thing about Nightmare Alley's 4K Blu-ray release, the standard one that I have right there, not that many extras on it. It's still really nice, very good quality. The extras that are really good, but Criterion's Criterion, and they're giving us a 4-disc set. So not only do we have a brand new approved version of, just a regular theatrical cut of the film, we're also going to be getting that black and white noir film that we've been waiting for, because, this is what Guillermo del Toro saw. His vision was that this is his neo-noir film in his own little Guillermo del Toro way, which I don't mean to insult him in any way, and when I say that, because I love Guillermo del Toro. He is one of my favorite directors. His visions are always absolutely beautiful. He makes like these fucked up fairy tales, and I love that. And Nightmare Alley, it's definitely a very messed up film. One of I would say, Bradley Cooper, I didn't love him the last time I watched it, but I still absolutely love this film, and I can't wait to see it in beautiful black and white. So Nightmare Alley coming to 4K in a 4-disc set, that's absolutely awesome. And I also really love the artwork on the cover for this. So really leaning into like what Guillermo del Toro was going for, and this is the best of what we could ask for from a boutique label. So Criterion just hit a grand slam when it comes to October 2025. So what are you guys looking forward to? Are you excited for any of those releases? I mean, there is a ton. We're all going to be poor once spooky season rolls around, because we haven't even gotten Arrow and Shouts announcements yet. Lionsgate Limited also announced their August releases for 2025, and I think a lot of us thought it was going to be Daybreakers and Jacob's Ladder since they've been promoting that on their website. So maybe those are supposed to be September or spooky season since those are horror movies and they're just getting ready and promoting them, because the ones that are going to be coming out in August already have 4K Blu-ray releases. Those movies are It Follows, it's going to get the beautiful Lionsgate Limited treatment, and of course High Tension on 4K Blu-ray. Now I have both of those from Second Sight, and I imagine that the scans that Lionsgate's going to be using are the exact same scans. I reviewed the 4K for High Tension here on the channel, but I didn't review It Follows, but both of those are high quality 4K Blu-ray scans, so if those so if you don't own these yet, those scans should end up on Lionsgate Limited releases, and I could definitely recommend them both. They're both great films. It Follows is definitely one where, if you're a fan of 80s horror and you're a fan of John Carpenter, you're absolutely going to love It Follows. So it's pretty cool that that's going to be getting at least a US release. But again, another thing that makes you think, do you wait for the US release if you live in the US, or do you buy the Second Sight releases? Because another thing that got announced this week is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. You can pre-order it, but it's a UK release at the moment, and we know there will be a US release sometime down the line announced, even if it gets announced a little bit sooner for the same exact release date. It makes you question, like, do I wait or do I buy it now? The Graduate we talked about last week, we already know that the Studio Canal release is coming, but we know a US release will eventually come, probably from the Criterion Collection. It's just that right now we have to wait and see, and it kind of leaves it up in the air because 4K Blu-rays are region free. It just, it's frustrating that so many different companies hold the rights to the same exact films, and then things like this happen, because the Lionsgate Limited Steelbooks, maybe I would have sprung for those if those come out last year, because it's still cheaper than the Second Sight collector's editions, and I don't have to pay for it to be imported. So I just went with the standard editions to save some money. But those Lionsgate Limited Steelbooks, I could have, kind of met them right in the middle. So it's a little bit disappointing that they do things like this, but, they're not always looking out for the collector. And if you don't believe me, Amazon announced this week that they are going to be re-releasing their Superman 5-film collection. That includes, Superman, Superman 2, Superman 2, the Donner Cut, Superman 3, Superman 4, the Quest for Beast. So all that's going to be re-released on 4K in their library casing. I happened to buy those releases a few years ago, and I reviewed them all here on the channel. And Superman 1 and 2 definitely had some problems with their 4K Blu-ray. Superman 1 had problems before this set came out, and it looks like that they're finally going to be fixing those issues. Bill Hunt over at the Digital Bits, he talked about this, and you know what? That's cool. Better late than never. But unfortunately, you burned everybody who already bought those years ago, and now you to fix the issues, and you're going to be releasing them in the same exact packaging. Give replacement discs for the people who bought those years ago or something. But this is Warner Brothers we're talking about. So this is Warner Brothers we're talking about. David Zaslav's company, piece of shit. So I shouldn't be too surprised, but still, it's a little disappointing for people who already bought these discs, reported on the issues years ago, and now you're going to update them and just resell them. I'm sure there's people out there who already have the beautiful library casing packaging, have no intention of buying these. So it's really just for people who don't have them, and it's unfortunate because they'll end up with the better discs in comparison to people who spent their money years ago when these originally came out. So again, studios don't necessarily care about the collectors, so they're looking out for the bottom line first and foremost, and we've seen this time and time again. Although I do have to hand out some compliments to another studio, because I just automatically assumed that they were going to do us dirty. Master and Commander, we finally announced the 4K Blu-ray. We talked about this a couple months ago that we knew it was coming. Well, they announced it, and it's going to be coming pretty damn soon on August 5th. This is the the match made in heaven between Sony and Disney that kind of so far has been a nightmare for some people, but I just assumed right out of the gate that this was going to cost $55, just like Kingdom of Heaven. It's going to be hard to pre-order, and not everyone's going to get their Steelbook when it comes out. Well, not only did it go up for pre-order and I was able to actually grab it, but it was actually $39.99, which is not too bad. That's about in line what you would expect. That's about something that Sony sells their 4K Blu-rays out for when they start, so even if that drops down to like $35, that's more in line with what we can expect. That's not abusing us. That's not over $50, which is just too much for one film. So I'm glad to see that maybe Disney has learned their lesson, because this is Disney. Even though some team up between Disney and Sony, I feel like Disney's the one pulling the strings when it comes to pricing and the amount of 4K Steelbooks they print, because Sony also announced that they're going to be releasing a couple of discs. We talked about last week the Night of the Living Dead remake. That's Sony's 4K Steelbook. I was able to pre-order that, no problem. It's fairly priced. And then Silverado is going to be coming out in October. And this is one, man, we are really living the year of the Westerns on 4K Blu-ray. Lawrence Kasdan directed this 80s classic, in my opinion, with a stacked cast. Kevin Costner, he pops up in this movie as well. Lawrence Kasdan paying him back for what happened in The Big Chill, where unfortunately his character got cut, so he gets a pretty prominent role in this. Danny Glover, Kevin Kline. line. I mean, this movie is stacked, and I'm really glad to see this getting the 4K Steelbook treatment as well. Again, Disney only gives us the option of the Steelbook. It seems like Sony does that as well, but they price them a little bit fairer. So I do feel like the big mouse up there is the one pulling all the strings when it comes to the pricing and limiting the amount of Steelbook releases. But it does look like they learned their lesson, and I have to hand out props because I've knocked them here on the channel many times for, their bad business practices. And you know what? Got to give out compliments when compliments are due. So there you go, Master and Commander. I think you might still be able to pre-order it right now. I have the previously released Blu-ray. I was going to hold on to it, but I do think that's a beautiful looking film, and if I can get that on 4K Blu-ray, I'm going to grab it. And since they seem to be changing their policies a little bit, you know what? I don't feel as dirty as I usually do. Also at the end of this month, Warner Archive is going to be giving us Get Carter. This is the classic film starring Michael Caine. That's going to be coming to 4K Blu-ray at the very end of this month as well. Warner Archive, a lot like Sony and Disney, announced their big releases for the month, kind of very, not that far ahead of time, so you got to get these pre-orders in. Now, this one shouldn't be that hard to get. This is the third 4K Blu-ray release from Warner Archive. After last year, they did The Searchers, which is one of the best 4K Blu-ray releases ever. And then at the end of June, they gave us High Society on 4K Blu-ray, which that film didn't really interest me too much, so I didn't grab that one on 4K Blu-ray, but Get Carter, I am definitely getting Get Carter on 4K Blu-ray, so that's awesome. That's going to be coming at the end of August as well. And I was doing some exploring on Blu-ray.com, and I noticed that there's a listing for September for The Coal Miner's Daughter. I have the Blu-ray right here. The 4K Blu-ray looks like the exact same release as this as far as the artwork goes. Universal will be the one doing that release. Coal Miner's Daughter won the Best Picture in 1980, so it's pretty cool to see that getting the 4K Blu-ray treatment. I'll probably grab that and upgrade this Blu-ray. I bought this Blu-ray from Groove like 3 years ago for $5, so I guess it's time to upgrade. I got my use out of that, so pretty cool to see that. And also, I was exploring Blu-ray.com. Speaking of September, on September 17th, there's a listing for Terminator and Terminator 2, a combo pack on 4K Blu-ray. So I imagine, though, since, obviously we haven't had any information on it, that release will include the unfortunate Studio Canal 4K Blu-ray release for Terminator 2 and the Warner Bros. 4K Blu-ray release for Terminator. And, we're just going to put them in the same pack for people who haven't grabbed them yet. That's pretty cool, but for all of us who have been crossing our fingers and hoping that Terminator 2 would get a new scan, I'm going to guess because that listing is already out there that's not going to be the case. We wish we would get Terminator 2 with the new scan, but it looks very unlikely. I could be wrong. Maybe this is them prepping to let us know that Terminator 2 is going to be receiving a brand new scan on 4K Blu-ray, fixing all the issues. But unfortunately, I do not think that's the case. I just noticed it was on there, so if you guys are interested, Terminator 1 and 2 supposedly going to have a double pack coming out on September 17th. Kino Lorber also announced, right before the show started, that they are going to be releasing a 4-film 4K collection of the airport films, which, these are the big popular disaster films of the 1970s. Obviously, this is what Airplane is based on. Airplane, I think, even uses some of the same sets from the airport movies. These movies, I'm not the world's biggest fan of them. They're very enjoyable. I don't think I'll be grabbing that 4K Blu-ray set. Now, you can buy them separately. So if you want to buy just one film in there, they are going to be selling them separately. So that's pretty cool. So if you only like the first Airport, or Airport 77 and all that kind of stuff, then you'll be able to get them all on 4K Blu-ray. And I believe that's coming out in September, I want to say. I think it was September. And then the last bit of news this week is that, we're celebrating 20 years of Batman Begins. Well, they're going to be giving us a new Dark Knight trilogy on 4K Blu-ray in the Warner Bros. Library casing. All these steelbooks look absolutely beautiful. If I have enough money lying around, I would actually like to grab these because they look stunning. And I think that my standard editions of the Dark Knight trilogy, they're fine, but if I have extra money, this is the only time I'll make a case where I might like to upgrade to the 4K steelbooks. But again, I'd have to have some real extra money lying around because the discs and everything else are going to be exactly the same. I would have to, it's something I don't really like to do, but the Dark Knight trilogy does mean a lot to me. It's something that, obviously when I was becoming a huge movie fan in the 2000s, these movies always spoke to me. The Dark Knight, I have the tattoo on my arm. I've always been a huge Batman fan, given Batman 89 has always been my favorite of the Batman films, but The Dark Knight was special to me. Batman Begins is still my second favorite Batman film, and The Dark Knight Rises, while it fails in many aspects, it's still a very well-made film. It's got some iconic scenes in any Batman movie where it's just like they stand out. It's like just thinking of Batman with the sun shining down, the little bit of snow coming down, they're just fighting. That stuff is beautiful. I just wish there weren't plot holes galore in that movie because it deserves so much more. But again, when you get the director and everyone back who really didn't want to come back, it kind of shows on the screen, and that's unfortunate. So that's why The Dark Knight Rises, it's still good. It's just that it should have been great. Like I said, a very busy news week this week. What are you guys most interested in? Let me know in the comments section below. Which of these 4K Blu-rays and Blu-rays will you be picking up? Leave your comments in the comments section below. And while you guys are down there, don't forget that like button, hit that subscribe button, share this video if you could. We also have have channel memberships, guys. So if you want to become a friend of the channel, a producer for the channel, like Ben Rondo and John Doe Juggalo, you can do that. Or you can even become a channel director, like Uncle V, Nicholas Head, Frank from Frank's Media and Reviews, Stone Gasman, and Kevin Kruger. You could do that, or you can even bump it up to the channel bankroll member like Mr. Smelly Potato. But of course, guys, if you got no money to throw away, don't worry about it all. We just hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, get out those streets, tell your friends about us, and then we'll be seeing you around.